Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Sports Lounge. But before we start, I would like to indulge my guests, please. Can we stand up as we sing the remix of the national anthem after the events of yesterday, 7th of February 2024?
I agree with all of you.
So please, shall we? Just start.
Arise, O compatriots.
True.
Nigeria's Columbia.
True.
To serve our
See that you guys have terrible voices, man. Terrible voices. But that's it. That's the Amapiano remix of the national anthem after we took it from South Africa yesterday in the African Cup of Nations. You're welcome to the Sports Lounge, guys, and I'm here with two of the most prominent members of the Sports Lounge. Tayo Ashabon, you'll be here, man. What's good, bro?
I'm glad to be here. Even gladder after our marvelous display yesterday. I mean, it's all smiles and well deserved for Nigerians worldwide. The Super Eagles did it for us once again. Nigerians typically we don't have too many things to smile about right now, but the Super Eagles.
What was one thing in that game that just blew your mind about what Nigeria has been able to do?
Apart from your BP.
Good one.
That was actually what I was going to mention.
Well, to be very sincere, to be honest with you, I didn't actually see Nigeria actually going this far in the competition, to be sincere. So because we have gotten so used to heartbreaks, not just the footballing team now, even the country as well. And then there are a couple of things that didn't just seem like they were going so right and stuff. So in my mind, for Nigeria to even get to the semi-finals and then the way they are playing and all, and then they are able to grind out results. We've been seeing 1-0s and keeping clean sheets. And then in my mind yesterday, I was like, God, let this game not enter the penalties, because after the heroics of the South Africa goalkeeper in the previous game, and then it gets to penalties and we actually come out on top. Come on. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Just brilliant.
I mean, this is just a prelude to what we'll be discussing about. Like I said, my name is Bami George and I'll be your host for today's show. Just stick along with us for the next 10 to 20 minutes as we break down what's happened in the past week in the world of sports. But since we've already started with AFCON, we would stick on it. Tayo, I mean, like Treasure rightly said, I didn't expect Nigeria to. A lot of people, in fact, when I was speaking to a lot of senior colleagues in the industry, most of them were like, let's hope that Nigeria makes it out. But we've not only, I think this was the only game that really took a toll on our BPs and all. But what a performance from Jose Pereira.
I'll have to give full credit to Jose Pereira. Our build-up into our past couple of matches just before going into the AFCON have been, if nothing, less than impressive. With our 4-2-4 formation, trying to combine the wealth of attacking options we had. It was just like we were very dysfunctional as a team. But as they say, there's a famous saying, scarcity is the mother of invention. And
which school did they take that one? I don't hear that. I didn't hear that one.
That's not high school academy.
That's not high school academy. I let it there. So we lost Taiwo only before AFCON. He couldn't make the provisional list. He got injured. Boniface made the provisional list, got injured. We had Ndidi making provisional lists, got injured, couldn't make it to the final list. I think he even made it to the final list. It was just like a couple of days before we had to replace him with Al Hassan because his race for full fitness wasn't to be. And lacking options, Pereira had to make a couple of changes. And even in the first match when we played a 3-4-3, Hassan was a revelation. He was one of our best. He was my best player in that match. And then he got injured as well in the first match, leading to more tinkering. And then we settled on our 3-4-3 formation, which has just been wonderful. Aino and Zaidu on the flanks, bombing forward and backward. We have Calvin Bassey in his favored left centre back position, absolutely unbeatable. Ekong marshalling the defence properly. And even Semi Ajayi doesn't look like a defender who plays for a club in the championship. He looks like he deserves to be in the top 5 leagues. That's how good our defence has been. And you can't mention your defence without mentioning the people in front of them in Iwobi and Onyeka. Yeah. So we've had very good performances across board. And not just from the tactical point of view, I think we also have personalities in the dressing room that have built this cohesiveness. First, we have 2 players who were part of the 2013 squad in Omero and Musa. Yeah. So they are past winners. They know what it takes to win. They know you can't afford to have any infighting, any snobbishness. Everyone has to take each other as a family, as a team. I mean, in our last match against South Africa, our line missed his penalty, and we had Terry Murphy running down from the halfway line to pick him up, to cheer him up. Yeah, so even like then during the celebrations, I know went on his Snapchat, everyone celebrating, he's reminiscing that this guy saved his ass. And then even like from the videos and clips we see from these guys, Bassi said it, there's nobody he can walk up to and have a quick chat with. For someone who's played outside the country, who's been outside the country all his life, he's played in Ajax, he's played in Fulham, he can have a good rapport with Olorunleke Ojo, who has been in Nigeria all his life. There are very few shared experiences between these people, but because they're involved in one thing that brings them together, in the one place that everyone is together for just about a month, they have that connection, they have that chemistry, and everybody is we have a very tight-knit squad, and I really don't see what can stop them right now. And bring on the finals. You know what? Put us in Euros. Bring on Euros.
Okay. Kevin De Bruyne, we're coming for you next.
What is Kevin De Bruyne to Frank Onyeka?
To what he said, you would notice like the team chemistry, the bonding has actually been fantastic. Yeah. Like you can see how
I don't know how you guys are talking about the bonding. There's no how I'm not going to bond the people that when we're entering the lineup, we're already jamming to some lead jams. I just love the way the AFCON players get.
Like it's nice to see. It's nice to watch. It's nice to know that both the guys that are outside and the guys that are within the country can find such unity and bond and everything. Especially I was when Osimhen walked up to our captain just before he took the penalty in the first half. True second, yeah, and everything. And then you could see them literally discussing, and then before he goes, he just holds his shoulder and then he walks away. You could see those kind of things, and then he dispatches the ball nicely into the net. So yeah, like it's fun to see like they have that chemistry within their team, and chemistry goes a long way in football. If we're being very honest, chemistry goes a long way in football as well. So yeah.
All right, Nigeria will be playing the host nation Ivory Coast in the final on Sunday by 9 p.m. And I mean, looking at the 2 teams that have made it to the final, there's been a talk that this has been the best African Cup of Nations, and I mean, rightly so. It's been something like that's been written by a script maker. But
best of the best script writers.
But can we talk about the nuance of tactics, or the lack of a lot of tactical knowledge that has been shown so far? Because we have a team that qualified from almost being knocked out of the tournament, and we have Nigeria, who most people didn't expect to make the final, but once Jose found his formation, he stuck with it and he kept on going. We have Iwobi, who is not originally CM, although he's played it in the Premier League, played as a CM, and so like in the tournament so far, it's not really about who has the best tactics. How has that been able to play, but we're still hearing talks that this is one of the best tournaments?
I think first of all, I think that is slight on AFCON if you'd say this AFCON has lacked tactics. You can't call you can't look at the Nigerian setup and say they've lacked tactics. You've had
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like there's an absence of tactics. Like it's not a matter of who has the best tactics.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
no, well, it's not just football. Isn't just about tactics. Personalities come into play. I mean, this is tournament football. Where basically after the group stages, every match basically needs a hero stepping up to the plate. So it's beyond. I think that's where the source rightfully is missing from Euros. Everything is calculated, everything is methodical, everything is mathematics over there. But here you have players who are willing to go beyond tactics. You have players who, okay, yes, you had, I'll take Nigeria, South Africa for instance. We had two very beautiful tactical setups. South Africa looked to play their 3-4-3 sitting deep, defending in a back five so that they can fully occupy our 3 attackers and 2 wing backs, thereby nullifying all our forward options, meaning we have to pass around the back. And all their midfielders have to do, their midfielders are not attacking, steal the ball, send it over the Nigerian defense. And Nigeria had to find a way to, you know what, these guys have gone over my defense a lot of times. There has been zero mention of Nwabali being a sweeper keeper all through the tournament. Yet, on several occasions against South Africa, Nwabali had to step out of his box to sweep up behind his defense because of the high line we had to play because of our press. So you notice that a lot of players, they would go beyond the tactics. They are playing for national pride. They are playing for the 200 million odd people back in the country. You have people that usually on more occasion than not display more flair, and this is actually different. Yeah, they'll display more flair, a lot more tricks, but right now what's at stake are the goals, so that is even more restricted than we've seen previously. Typically you'd have more highlights, more dribbles, more of that, but right now it was in the group stage we had quite a number of stunning goals and people shooting from God knows where, all sorts of Hail Mary options. But now that we actually reached knockout football, bro, this is the business end. Everyone is sitting up tight, everyone is uptight and everything. So I'll just say it's a blend of that African spice when it comes to going the extra mile, doing the extra beats, the extra what Brazilians will call the ginga or samba, as they would say, that extra spice that most Africans have to do things with style and with panache, in addition to the tactics that the coaches have brought forth.
Brilliantly said. I mean, one other aspect I would really like us to talk about is you mentioned his name, and it has to be Stanley Nwabali. Going into the tournament, most Nigerians were afraid because there was like, I'm sorry. Right, because we saw some friendly games, and I think one against Mozambique, and the goal we considered was enough to cause that fear. But Stanley came in, and even though he was guided by a very strong defense, I felt the talks that he had not been tested, I felt they were far-fetched, and they were coming from people who don't understand that the goalkeeping role has now evolved from just being a natural shot-stopper. Nwabali comes out, he dominates his area.
Yeah.
You get, he makes his defenders feel safe as much as they make him feel safe. So it's a 50-50 kind of stuff. And how impressed have you been with him?
Very, very impressed. Very, very impressed. There was something he mentioned earlier, and just to touch on it a bit, about in the earlier conversation with regards to tactics. And I do think that, yes, tactics is good, but we also need to look at the quality of the opposition as well. To a very large extent, no matter how tactically sound some clubs or some countries would be, quality of opposition also matters. And that is why you see that when certain clubs beat bigger clubs, it's called an upset, because it is not bound to happen because of quality of the opposition, not necessarily to do with the tactics. And I think the same thing also plays within the AFCON about the quality of the opposition, and that's why it feels like Ivory Coast that barely managed to struggle out of the group has gotten this far. That's one. Then back to Nwabali, like, I'm sorry, but we didn't expect this kind of, or I personally didn't expect this kind of performance from him actually, and I'm not sure a lot of people actually expected this kind of performance from him. But to be able to give us what he has given us, especially even yesterday, yesterday I felt like, okay, you know what? It seems like there are people that are just built for the big stage. Like when it's needed that they must perform, they actually shine and perform. And I think that maybe he has also just grown into that as well as the competition has actually gone by. But what we have seen from Stanley No has been beautiful. Nothing short of that. I remember even the free kick that they took, and then he saved it. And very, very important at that particular point in time, because imagine that ball had actually gone in. I remember there was also a chance that they had, I think, in the first half, when once again they had played the long ball over the defense. One of the South African attackers had just positioned it for his other player, and then the finesse, and then Nwabali was there to literally just punch out the ball. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, you know what? This guy literally knew when to come out, because as he mentioned, the defense we were playing like a high line and everything due to the press. And so Nwabali was literally covering everything. In short, the commentary that was so one-sided or so biased had even said that at the point maybe he would get cut out and something, and that never happened throughout the game, because he knew his assignment, he knew he had to protect his backline, and he knew what to do. So kudos to him. I have been extremely impressed by what he has done so far. Talk less of the penalty saves. Come on.
Yeah, thank you, Stanley Nwabali. You have three big men here who are really grateful for your exploits in that game against South Africa. We appreciate the shape of your head, and we will continue to ensure goalkeepers have that same shape of the head.